Yes, yes, yes. Call me. Call me, call me, call me. And I will answer with the same thing I'm telling you each and every week, that you are the divine child of the living Spirit. No matter what's going on. Yeah, it's on. There you go. The AV team's going wild back there. I love it. It's hand signals. I love it. You know, these guys could work at the airport. We'll give them a couple of things. Bring those planes in. Come on, Tony, land that plane on the runway, dude. Get right there. I love you guys. Okay, so today I'm going to talk about unity, the practice of practical Christianity, because it's a very specific and a very dedicated purpose and practice. And sometimes we forget. We get all over the place going in different directions, and we forget that unity really is a very specific movement. It's a movement of positive, practical spirituality, metaphysical Christianity. So it is very different from your traditional views of waiting for someone to come and save you. Since the birth of the unity movement, it has been called positive, practical Christianity. We're dedicated to uncovering the spiritual powers within you, within each and every human being, as demonstrated by Jesus the Christ. And we're dedicated to putting them to use in our own lives. We take universal spiritual principles and we train our consciousness to respond from truth. That's what we're doing. We're responding. And you know what? It becomes automatic. The spirit within you starts to respond for you. And that's how you know it's working. Because you know, geez, that didn't come from me. That came from the Spirit. It came from something else. But that something else is the true you. The you you've been pretending to be is a separate being, and it's not who you are. So we take these principles and we seek to respond to the world from truth and love instead of reacting to the world out of fear and anger. Because that's what we were used to doing, is reacting all the time. That becomes your default mechanism, is to react. And the human being has something in its brain called the amygdala, the fight or flight response. And when that is firing off and the chemicals are firing off, you're usually responding out of fear. You're not responding out of love and thoughtfulness. You're reacting out of fear. You're reacting out of survival, out of anger. And that stress and tension is unbearable to the human body. It's unbearable to the planet, really, because we're stressing out the planet by reacting to everything out of fear and anger. And so we're seeking to heal and not hurt. We are seeking to bring together and not separate. We seek to grow in the Spirit and not viciously defend our limited perspectives. Do you see how that's the opposite? Because if somebody has a perspective you don't like, when you react out of your past, out of your fear, out of your hurt, out of your anger, you are reacting out of defending your limited perspective. You're doing the same thing. Oh, I don't like your opinion. Here's my opinion. It's not going to work that way. Most of all, what we're trying to do, instead of defending our limited perspectives, is to live a life guided by the Christ within us. To, not an existence, but to really live a life of magnificence. You know, not just have an existence ruled by limited perspectives of our sense consciousness. And if you've been in unity at all for a little while, you know that sense consciousness is very limited to a small perspective of who you are, what the universe is, and what you think God might be. But instead of waiting for someone to come and save us from out there, we learn how to manifest our own power and to create a reality based on love and oneness. This is all that Yeshua did. The guy from Nazareth, that's all he did, was manifest his own powers because he knew he was one with God. And we've put him on an idol. We placed him up here on a pedestal, made an idol out of him. So, well, if we're good and we don't sin, right, whatever that is, I'll talk about that later, the ideas of sin. But if we're really good and we follow the rules, the rules are always changing also, according to human beings. But if we do all that, then he'll come back, and he'll take us to heaven. Well, if you're not in heaven, if heaven isn't available to you right now, how is it going to be available to you when that guy comes back? How are you going to recognize him? Right? You got this picture of a white guy with blue eyes and blonde hair hanging on your wall. That wasn't Yeshua. He was a brown-skinned dude. Probably did have long hair. But I don't think they had hairbrushes and hair salons and blow dryers back then. You see those pictures of Jesus in those churches? I mean, it's incredible. It looks like he just came from the hair salon. Yeah. I'm going to save you, dudes. No, it's not. It's just, you know what we're doing? We are manifesting our own power to create a reality based on love and oneness. And we learn how to heal. And we learn how to live in harmony. And that's where all the joy is, all the fun, and all the deep spiritual experience is when you're putting your spiritual thoughts and beliefs and philosophies into action. That's why I was so drawn to Unity, because it's practical. So we learn also how to bring life and peace to every being through the practical application of these spiritual principles that we're learning. We are creating a world powerfully transformed. It's not just a vision, it's actually something we are doing. And it's a world in which we live in faith and trust and peace and understanding, and one from which we don't need to be saved, because it's an awesome world that's manifest from divine law and through the pure substance of love. I don't want to be saved from that world. That's the world we've been looking for. The world you want to be saved from is that world of fear and anger and violence that you're creating. Stop creating it, and guess what? You're going to find yourself in that world of love and oneness. Stop participating in the world of anger, fear, and violence. Just refuse to participate in it. And you can call it out and say, that's wrong, and I'm not going to participate in that. And I invite you to stop participating in that world, to lay down your arms and come with holy, open arms unto your Creator, unto the Spirit of love, living, loving God. Because God is love and only love. I invite each and every one of you to read the message of the minister from this month. You've been getting it in your email, and thank you, Brenda, thank you. And it's also on the website in the minister's blog. It says blog. So you can find every monthly message there from the time I started. Way back 5 years ago, in November, I've each and every month written a minister's message. And this message really, for this month, it called on me to tap into something deeper in my heart and mind that could address the issues that we are faced with in this day and age. And I keep coming back to the only answer is a spiritual answer, is a matter of consciousness. And so today I want to talk about how to practically put your principles of higher consciousness into practice in your life, into good use in your life. Charles Fillmore called Unity a continuation of the great educational movement inaugurated by Jesus the Christ. Isn't that wonderful? So that's why he came, to teach us. It's an educational movement. Teach you about the power within you. That's what Yeshua came to teach us. And that's the educational movement that we are continuing. It was inaugurated by this Christ being. And so we too must learn how to be our Christ beings and demonstrate that to the world. This movement seeks to demonstrate spiritual powers possessed by every human being. So many of you know that unity has been around for a long time, since the late 1800s. It was established in 1889 by Charles and Myrtle Fillmore. And you also know that unity is part of a greater movement, what is called the New Thought movement. You may also have heard it said many times that unity was born out of Myrtle Fillmore's truly amazing healing experience. When she began practicing spiritual principles in her life, she practiced the application of spiritual principles to heal her body from tuberculosis. She did it with her mind, connecting to the Spirit of the living God within her body and within her mind. She spoke to each part of her body, and she affirmed the truth that dwelled there. And that truth became whole. It became what it is. And so the truth within every living cell of her body started to recognize itself again. Why? Because she recognized it in her mind, and she affirmed the truth of God in her consciousness, but also in her body, which reflects the consciousness. And so she had an amazing healing experience. I know that many of you have heard about it and read about it many times. I know you're also aware of that Charles and Myrtle Fillmore have an incredible depth and wealth of teachings. So many books and so many programs that Unity offers. And then they have touched millions and millions of lives around this world. But some of you may not be aware that Unity is also a recognized denomination. It's not a non-denominational religious organization. It's actually a Christian denomination called Practical Christianity. And so, if anything, we are extremely specific type of denomination where we teach the power of God in you. And we teach the powers that Jesus represented through his living here is what we endeavor to discover in ourselves and discover the manner in which we can too bring forth the Christ in us. Christ in us, Christ within. This is our specific focus, is to bring forth the Christ within, because the Christ in you is the hope of glory. And I keep saying it, if we do not demonstrate the Christ in us, we are not going to experience that glory. We are going to still place it all outside of us. We're going to shirk or relinquish our responsibilities of bringing it about, of making it happen. So, Unity is a specific type of denomination within the New Thought movement. And it's been around, again, since the late 1800s. It's not anything new, but it is now really starting to show up in every aspect of your life, and in almost any self-help book you read, in almost any positive teaching that you read. All that came from Unity. Healing with the mind, all that is New Thought and Unity. And so, if you perform a Google search, which I did, I just typed in Unity, I read something that speaks of this, and it's exactly what I just said. Unity Worldwide Ministries is an organization founded by Charles and Myrtle Fillmore in 1889. It grew out of transcendentalism and became part of the New Thought movement. Unity is known for its daily word devotional publication and is characterized as a positive, practical Christianity, which teaches, get this, the effective daily application of the principles of truth as taught and exemplified by Jesus Christ. Daily application of the principles as taught, not just taught, but demonstrated by Jesus the Christ, the being, the Christ being. So we tend to embrace many mystical and religious teachings here at Unity, as long as we can put them into practice through the same principles known or shown to us by the Fillmores and Jesus the Christ. We meditate. We use positive affirmation in our prayer. We include the truth that is found at the core of every faith. We might practice yoga or Tai Chi or Qigong or any number of things, chanting, mindfulness. All of these consciousness-raising practices are welcome here. Why? Because they're the same principles taught and demonstrated by Jesus the Christ. He taught and demonstrated it within his cultural and physical surroundings. He taught and demonstrated it as a Jew in 2,000 years ago in the Middle East. We need to teach and demonstrate it by any methods available to us right here in 2020 as members of Unity on Cape Cod, as members of the human family. We need to teach and demonstrate these principles. And the important thing to remember is that they are found at the core of every religion and every spiritual path, of every faith. These principles are found, and so we can put them into practice with everyone. This is not limited to, quote unquote, what we define as Christian, but this movement was truly meant to touch everyone, all Christian denominations, all religious practices, all faiths, all spiritual paths, because we're just seeking to join with you. We're seeking to find our common ground. And I know that common ground that we experience is the realm of spirit. And we need to focus on that. So rather than focusing on our differences, what we do here is focus on what connects us. We focus on what we have in common. Because what unites us truly, truly is far more powerful than that which divides us. And so I really want us to practice focusing on what is uniting us. I'm just going to let go of those notes for a second, because what it tells me is you never left heaven. There is a wonderful call from Charles Fillmore. And I'm going to read that to you from his book, The 12 Powers of Man. And what I love about this is that, here, I'll hold it up so you can get a picture of it for the video, is that Charles is calling us out to do our part as the Christ in this world. Charles Fillmore states in the book, 12 Powers of Man, "Let no person think he can retire from living. Do not shirk the responsibilities of life. You have made them, you can unmake them. A way of escape has been provided for every one of us, and that way is to overcome mistakes by incorporating into the mind and heart the attributes of the Christ mind." That's what we're doing. We are incorporating into our mind and heart the attributes of the Christ mind. Now, we've made this world that is not sometimes reflecting heaven to us. It sometimes is feeling very disastrous, catastrophic. Sometimes we get depressed and angry. But that's not the world God created. That's the world that you made and can unmake. So it's your responsibility to unmake it. Not blame somebody else for it. It's your responsibility. Take responsibility for making it. You cannot shirk your responsibility. You can't retire from life. But you can unmake it by what? Incorporating into your mind and heart the attributes of the Christ mind. Now I love how he says mind and heart. Somewhere I read in this book also, he has a passage which he speaks about the mind of the heart, or the brain of the heart. And wow, we're discovering, heart math is discovering now that the heart actually has sending more information to the brain than the brain sends The heart sends it to the brain, and the brain sends it out to the body. So the heart is actually, the feeling part of you is actually the part that has the most information, or that gathers the most information. So get in touch with that, and you'll be fine. Get in touch with that. This is pure Course in Miracles. You made the world you see, and you can unmake it. And the unmaking of it is the miracle. And that's when I find that I've never left heaven. Because in the miracle, all my mistakes are undone. You notice also that Charles calls them mistakes. Because the word sin comes from the Aramaic word to miss the mark. It's a mistake. That's all. It's an error. It's just that you shot the arrow, but you missed the bullseye. That's okay. Try again. It was just a mistake. It was just a miss. So we might miss 1,000 times, but keep going, because that's the one. That's how you succeed. It's like Edison. He tried 1,000 times and then he succeeded. But you keep trying, you keep doing, you keep attempting to incorporate into your mind the attributes of the Christ mind. So let's just think of the attributes of the Christ mind for a moment. What comes to mind when you think of Christ? Do you think of someone or something that loves you unconditionally? Do you think of a power that can heal you? Do you think of a power that with a word or with an energy can calm the storm or transmute water into wine? Do you think of the energy of oneness, of someone that can bring together all the 12 tribes of humanity and 12 people, gather them up and demonstrate to them the power of God in us through the 12 powers of man? When you think of Christ, what do you think of? Or do you see the blonde-haired, blue-eyed guy who just came out of the beauty parlor? I don't know what you see when you think of Christ. I think of all that energy of healing and all that energy of gathering up the tribes of humanity and bringing them back to heaven. That's what I think of. I think of the power that lies within each of us to demonstrate good in this world, to demonstrate not only our oneness here on earth, but our spiritual oneness, our eternal oneness, the power that comes from knowing that my purpose here is being fulfilled. My purpose as a spiritual being here is being fulfilled. Because I can have all the faith in the world, but as the book of James says in James 2:17, it says, faith without works is dead. You have to step out in that faith. If you truly have faith in something, you won't be afraid to action it in your life. If you truly have faith in something, you won't be afraid to demonstrate it. But if you just have faith that, it's going to disappear, the virus will just disappear. It's not like that. That's not faith. That's death. Faith without works is dead. Yes, the virus is going to disappear if I wear my mask, if I do the contact tracing and all of these other things that need to be done. All of these things, practice social distancing, all of the things that we know we need to do in order to bring about a physical healing within the human. If we do those things, I have faith that it is going to disappear a lot faster. And I also have faith in the spiritual matters, not just faith in the cause and effect universe, because that's so small. I have faith in spiritual matters. I have faith that the Spirit of the living God within each of us can heal us from anything. But we need to do the same action of mind. We need to perform the same thing. If we practice spiritual principles, we will have peace. Now, I go to different healers and practitioners, but I know if I want the best doctor, the best massage therapist, or the best herbalist, I'm going to go to somebody who's been practicing it. I'm going to go to someone who's been studying it. I'm going to go to someone who actually takes the actions to make it work, and who has integrity in what they're doing, who has a focus and a drive to know that God is working through them in that practice. Otherwise, it's not going to work for me. I need someone who's an expert. I want someone who's really practicing what they preach. And so that's why I come here today, to tell you that you can practice these spiritual principles. That if you really want to change the world and draw all men unto you, then you must lift up the Christ within you. All men and women, I should say. I'm trying to change that to become gender neutral or gender inclusive. All people, all beings will come unto you. Yeshua said that. If I be lifted up from the earth, I will draw all humans, all men and women unto me. That's in the scripture. If I be, what? Lifted up in consciousness. Lifted up. So you do lift up your consciousness to the realm of spiritual ideas and experience, to the realm of Christ, of God within you. And as you lift up your consciousness, you give others that permission to do so as well. So let's lift up our consciousness. Let's practice these principles. Let's endeavor to make our lives a worthy instrument of the God within us. Bring about that peace and harmony that we know exists. The way to overcome these mistakes that we've made is by persisting in spiritual principles until Christ be formed in us. That's another thing that was on the next page in Charles Fillmore's book. He says that we persist, or we travail, until Christ be formed in us. We keep shooting the arrow until we hit the mark. There is no sin, just mistakes. And we're making a lot of mistakes right now as human beings. And the way to undo that, and the way to unmake the world we are seeing in so much hatred and violence, is to go in the opposite direction. Hit the mark of love and acceptance. And do it every day. Every single day. This is what I love, is that the way to overcome the mistakes is not just by incorporating into the heart and mind the attributes of the Christ mind, but that we have to do it every day. That we have to have a daily practice. So all of you who are joined with me in this practice, I'm so grateful and thankful. And know that it's working. It's working, you guys. It's working. We are seeing the world powerfully transformed. And the way to bring it into clear vision for you, 2020 is still the year of clear vision, okay? I don't care what you say. 2020 is still the year of clear vision. And the way we bring it into clear vision is to practice every day these principles. And we can do it, and we are doing it. And so, one by one, we are persisting until the Christ is formed in us. The Christ consciousness is formed in us. And that Christ consciousness is becoming the consciousness of humankind, whether you see it or not. This is just all coming up for healing, my friends. It's all coming up to show us what we don't want anymore. So let's let it go. We don't want it. We're not going to participate in it. We are going to bring forth the Christ in us and in everyone. We are going to demonstrate the Christ consciousness. That's the practice of practical Christianity. Thank you, guys. I love you, and we'll see you soon. God bless.
You have been watching the message from our Sunday celebration service here at Unity on Cape Cod. providing a positive path for spiritual living. Please join us every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. at 147 Walton Ave, Hyannis, Mass., and visit us online at unityonCapeCod.org. This video was made possible in part through a grant from Unity Worldwide Ministries and the Templeton Foundation.